Well, hi everybody. This is Rob Decker again. We spent a lot of time on the Rug Room Live with each other and everything. All you the students that we have. So I wanted to say welcome to my Zoom meeting that we're going to talk a little bit about some things that we've done. Um, I want to introduce Paul Lucas. He has been, gosh, he's been teaching since the 1980s. He's just one of the best there is. What's that explaining everything and the chemistry background, everything. So we are very excited to have him here. And Paul, what do you got?
Well, I bet, yeah, I have been teaching. I started teaching with Ed York back in 1982. I started doing, I had done some classes as a student with Ed. He thought, hey, uh, come and help me. And so I did some classes with Ed. And then in 1985, I started working with him in the carpet inspector classes, which were a week long. So
Yeah.
we were at boot camp, day and night for a week. And we did mill tours all over the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and we got the mills to take us in and literally shut the machines off and have the students crawling inside the machines, under machines, getting grease on us, and then having the operator turn them on for a second, turn them off so we could see the working. I couldn't believe what the mills would do. They even would make mistakes on the rug so we could see a stop mark or a bad mend. And we're going like, man, they're really teaching us. And then some of the mills had their quality control people take all of our classes. And then Richard Mitty worked with that. That was Ed's son-in-law, but grew up in the rug carpet business, and he ended up going not only with me and Ed, but ended up going to all the mills and teaching repairs to the quality control people, so they knew when they were asking somebody to do a repair what to ask and how it should be done. And we just had a great time. And then of course we got eventually into rugs, and I remember that with you because we were at Pro Cleaners Network, and you were hosting back then and running the show for us. And then Scott up in Traverse City, Michigan, Scott Kenfield, he said, well, why don't we talk about rugs? And so we went to Thursday
When's
to do that. And I think Scott hosted the first one. I didn't go to it. And then he called me up the next day or two and said, hey, I got too many questions I don't know how to answer. You got to help me out. So I actually drove up to Scott's house and sat with him at his computer to be a teammate with him and help him answer the questions. And I did that 2 weeks, even though that's about a hour and a half drive each way.
oh
But we got started doing the rug room at Scott's house, and you were there hosting, and Scott was working, and we just started getting people coming together. How long ago was that? Do you remember?
At least 15 years. I know that. I mean, I know it was 2010. Yeah, I know it would have been 2010.
Yeah, so we appreciate all the work you've done, Rob, because we know you don't get a paycheck for doing this. And so appreciate all the hard work, and then just bringing everybody together all over, not just the United States, but even all over the US and even beyond. Kind of, I'm looking at that map behind you, and people coming in and just sharing and learning and having some experiences. We got a lot to talk about, but we got a class coming up. And so I wanted
That's
to talk
right.
about that June 5th, 6th, and 7th. I'm sorry it's 3 days, but if you're going to learn how to clean rugs, it takes 3 days, a minimum. I mean, we're still just go, 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 not just sitting around, but really working. And there's a lot to cover. We can't cover everything in those 3 days, but we try to cover everything the students want to know. We're having it out in Hagerstown, Maryland, hosted by AmeriClean, and they have a great rug cleaning shop. They just did a bunch of improvements. They put a new wash floor in just a few weeks ago. They know what they're doing. They're set up. They have a good production. So we're going to be at their place learning from them. And then we're also going to be instructing. You're going to be there, Rob, helping me out like we
Yep.
always do. And we want to invite people, to bring their boots because it's hands-on. Bring your questions. Start writing them down today if you want.
Yep.
You can even bring some rugs, not giant ones, but smaller ones because we want to do a lot of rugs, and we'll clean rugs for you. And with the idea of education, we want to teach you how to deal with these, and we try to cover every rug there is that we have in the plant. There at AmeriClean, and then rugs I bring, rugs the students bring. You might bring something, Rob. I don't know if you got something in mind, but we'll be doing hands-on, but with structure, starting at the beginning and working all the way through. So it'll be a great class. They're lots of fun.
They always are. And the one of the things that I've always liked about it the most is the camaraderie that you meet people that are into the same thing as you are. And that is so valuable because you get contact information, you get phone numbers, you can bounce ideas off of, and then a lot of people record the class while it's going on. Another great idea because nobody can come away with 100% of what's presented. So if you're able to go over it and over it and over it, it's a very valuable thing. And the Rug Room Live that we do every Wednesday is a great it keeps you in that education. It keeps it going. So you come in and we really are intense about it for 3 days. And then we've got every Wednesday night to talk about other particulars and things like that to help you make more money in your business.
Yeah. And I know that you record those meetings, and you have the rug vault.
Yes.
It goes back years.
Goes back to PCN days.
Yeah, it goes way back, at least 10 years, right? More?
More than 10 for sure.
Yeah. So those are available to even people just starting out.
Yep.
And so that information, all that education, all that experience, all those examples are just archived to share. So
yeah, and it's great because you can watch them with the guys that actually wash the rugs in your shop if you're a rug owner and you're not on the floor every day. These videos, these weekly videos that we produce, will really help your guys know the latest things. Like we have people like Lisa Wagner coming in talking about the rugs that she's seeing on the West Coast, which are the newer, usually they go from the coasts and they kind of work their way in.
So we've had some crazy rugs that people have brought, haven't we?
Man, oh man, probably one of the ones that I won't forget was the Moroccan from Alex in Flores in Reno. Nobody wanted to do it, and so he wound up. He asked almost every instructor there, and then he wound up getting a hold of Nate, and he said, "Nate, I've got this big blue spot
Yeah.
on
Well,
this big Navajo rug, or I'm
he
sorry,
came to
Moroccan
me.
rug,
He came to me first, I think. And it was big. It was a big rug, and it had
huge."
this big navy blue spot, like bigger than a basketball. It was like a big
All right.
round circle. And I said, we're not doing that. I said, that'll take hours.
Yep.
And I said, and we got a lot of ground to cover. We can only, and that rug's too big and it's trash. And I said, it probably won't come out. There's no way we're doing that. And he goes, okay. And he walked away. And then he went to who?
Nate.
Yeah. And what did Nate say?
They said, "Yeah, we'll do it. Sure, no problem. We'll make that thing look great."
And I'm sitting there going like, I'm going, hey, I told you we're not doing that. Nate goes, I don't worry about it. And how that rug turn out.
Oh, it was awesome, and I remember we did it after the class. After it was the night business that we were doing there. Where and I remember it came out so well that he was so happy to go back and give it to his customer again. He said, "You guys, I wouldn't have been able to save this if we weren't been able to do it the way that we did it in class."
That was the compromise because I told him no. Nate told him yes. So I said, we got to do it after dinner because
Right.
I really thought it was going to take us 2 hours to do it. And we spent maybe what, 20 minutes,
Yeah, 30 at the most.
20, 30 minutes, and it came out, and it came out beautiful. It came out much better than expected. But a lot of that was because Nate did it, so
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got a lot of talent. Uh,
It is.
we used my chemicals and it came out beautiful. So
Yeah. In fact, I think I've got a picture of a couple of Moroccans that we
oh,
have messed around with. So
okay.
let me see if I can get a couple. Let's see there. Okay, yeah. So this is actually you on your knees teaching right in front of a Moroccan.
Yes, we're testing for color fastness. And look at that fringe. That's
Yeah.
scary. And then
Yes, it is.
I have a little cup of LST mixed up ahead of time, probably. And I have some clean cotton towels and some clamps. And we're going
Mhm.
to do a bleed test. We did a crock test. And so we knew what we were up against before we jumped into it. We did a little thinking and so we got some understanding of what was really happening. We have scary colors there, that black, and right next to light colors, and there's
Yeah.
burgundy and some weird colors you don't like turquoise. And so we want to know what was going to go on. We're going to teach you how to do that in class. And
Yeah.
again, these Moroccans are scary, uh, and we consistently got them to look great, which amazes me because they are scary and they came out great. So that
Well, like Nate says, some of these rugs, you look at them sideways and they bleed. You don't even have to touch them. But
that,
yeah, that's what I don't know. Nate was teaching on that
there's Nate right
particular rug
there.
as well. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Nate's there talking about cleaning them. Nate has a customer that imports Moroccan rugs and sells them on,
Uh,
lives in Nate's town, so he gets a pretty fair amount of them just from that one customer because they come in dirty sometimes, and she has them cleaned before she sells them, and then other reasons, and he gets them from other customers, and so we did that. Now those are scary. Moroccans are scary, but remember we had Dave Nichols. And remember what he brought to the class? He brought, I
the
think,
Navajos.
five Navajos, and
Yeah.
he was afraid to clean them. And you remember how those came out? You remember those that class?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember him saying that for those rugs, what he was going to charge to clean those rugs was going to cover his hotel, it's going to cover his class fee and all of his expenses, traveling and everything, just from those five rugs. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah, I
wonderful to
remember
be able
that.
to pay for a class like that.
He
Yeah.
announced that after class because he didn't say anything to when but we cleaned all five of them in
Mhm.
class. We did them as a group. We all jumped in with our hands and boots and brushes, and we got them all, and they came out beautiful. And he was just smiling ear to ear because that day paid for his entire expenses for the class. So he was so happy about that.
Yeah, yeah, and it also you get you get the class and then you add the Wednesday nights because then you understand how valuable the Wednesday nights is. And so we add that in and the rug lounge as well now. So there is a lot of continuing education which every one of us needs. That's why I've been obsessed with this show from the very beginning. I remember when I first started watching it in on Trip Cleaners Network, people would have to tell me, Rob, it's midnight. Go to bed. I don't. We're done. The show's over. Show's been over 3 hours, and here you are.
we
It
would
becomes an obsession. Yeah.
we would do the hour, and then after the show was the hour was up, then it really took off because then people
Yep.
relaxed. and we just kind of shared stories and craziness. And I remember we would stay up till late with those sessions. It was a lot of fun, and it is still
Yeah.
we still have lots of fun doing this kind of stuff. Now you remember that that one class where um, we had Jesperson brought a rug that went through a flood,
Yes.
and it was absolutely trashed, and it had bled severely, and the person had a flood in their rug retail store, and Brian was cleaning the rugs and drying the rugs and fixing the water damage, and the one was so bad it was just like dark brown. It was like
Yeah.
almost almost black. It was darker than a UPS truck, and it looked the same color, dark but darker. But anyways, he brought it, and of course, day one, I said, well, let's get really aggressive and strip wash it. And we strip washed it, and it got better. Okay. And I asked everybody, I said, how does it look? Is it better? And everybody said yes. I said, is it acceptable? And everybody said no. I said, okay, tomorrow we're going to revisit. So then the next day came, and I said, okay, now we're going to get really crazy aggressive, and we cleaned it with chlorine bleach. And now I
Yep.
always tell everybody, don't use chlorine bleach. It's too strong. It's too
Yes.
crazy. But this rug was the rug store retailer, the owner, said to Brian, just throw it away for me. I don't care. And I said to Brian, I said, is this dear to you? Do you want to keep it? And that's exactly how he said it. And he says, I don't care. I brought it to class to destroy it. I said, okay. So then I said, don't do this regularly, but if you're going to bleach a rug, this is how it's done. So I explained about the dilution, the neutralization, the applications, the dwell times, all that kind of stuff. And we did that rug, and we got all done. And I said, okay, how's it look? Does it look better? And everybody said it looked better. And then I said, is it acceptable? And everybody said no. I said, okay, come back tomorrow. We're going to try it. And then we're really going to get aggressive. So then the next day we came back, and I said, we're going to do the ultimate oxidation. You remember what I
Yeah.
did that, Rob, what did I do on the third day?
Well, you have to take the fringe and fold them under the back, so you
Yeah.
don't want to ever get this done with the fringe. But a blowtorch is what we wound up using. And I remember it was a little sculpted Chinese rug. And it was one of those that had like a bluish cast, I remember. And we grinned it, and you could see that the top third of the fiber was just brown, and then the color of the rug was underneath there. And so you said, you sent me to the store, get a couple things, you're like, get this, and come back. When I came back, we torched that rug with the blowtorch.
So,
um
so I
and
burn it, I burn it black, and then
evenly, that's the key.
and
Evenly.
I didn't catch the fringe on fire. And then we took it and we washed it with triple deodorizing rug shampoo, because it smelled like a fire.
Yeah, oh my
And
gosh,
we
yeah.
washed it, and I said, okay, so day three, I said, everybody, does it look better? Everybody said, yeah. I said, is it acceptable? And everybody just about said yes. It
Yeah.
it would go back to the customer, and all of a sudden, you could see the pattern, you could see the
Yeah.
colors. Okay, so we did an extreme one, and it was kind of a joke, because I don't expect people to do that. But frankly, there are people that do that. When you get a rug that's so bad, or you get a rug that goes through a fire, and it's burnt
Mhm.
partially, or you get a rug that just is so bled, then that is a method
Yeah.
of making it new again, because we burn all the bad stuff off and all the good stuff was underneath. Now, most people would shear it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it's done in this country. We shear it.
Mhm.
But overseas, in some of the poorer countries, they torch them. And that's where I knew about it. I knew that people, from the old country, so to speak, I'd seen it done. So I'm going, hey, if they can do this in Persia, we can do it in the United States of America. So, but we have great fun at all those classes, doing all that fun stuff.
Meeting so many people, my Rolodex from going to classes has grown so much that I have so many good people across the country that I know that anytime that I travel, I get to go to 3 or 4 rug shops anywhere I go, and on the way, because you just start to develop really positive friendships with people who are into the same thing you are with rugs. It's why we all gather. And so that's just such a great, that's one of my favorite things about it for sure.
Oh, it's lots of fun, and we see the same people over and over again because a lot of people come back to class
Yep.
over and over again, and so they see the value. And I've even said to some of them, I say, you included, what are you doing here? It's like I'm back, and it's like you've been to it 2 times, it's back, and so
Yeah,
and so you learn something every time.
I
I
do.
learn something every time. We hopefully we all learn because that's the whole that's life. You need to keep on learning, keep
That's
on
right.
growing, and getting those experiences together. Now, at the class coming up, you're planning on being there, right, Rob?
Absolutely, I'll be there.
Okay, so that's lots of fun. And the reason I want Rob there is Rob helps me out so much because um, it's just overwhelming what we have to do, and it takes a team to get it done. And
Yes,
so
it does.
Rob's always there to help out, and he does some of the teaching with me, and does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And then we also know that AmeriCleans go help us, and they're going to do work behind the scenes, and they're going to help with the teaching. So it's just, you might sit there and say, "Well, I don't want to hear Paul talk all day." I can't stand that for a day, let alone 3. But it's a team effort, and we all get
Yes,
to work together. And and a lot of the cleaning is done by the students. We want the students there to do the work because we learn by doing.
that's right.
Hearing is good, seeing is good, reading is good, but doing is very powerful because it's so much better for remembering. You
Yes.
hear something, and then a couple weeks later, you've forgotten it. But you do something, and a year goes by, and all of a sudden that Navajo shows up, like Nate's wearing. And you
Yeah.
like, oh, I've done these before, and you remember how to do it because you did it. You didn't just watch, you
Right.
did the work. So it's a real team effort. We all get involved, and we try to cover everything. Now we do most of it hands-on, but a little teeny bit we do through discussion because
Mhm.
some of it we don't have that rug, or some of it is more about dealing with the customer or about the concepts of doing things like how the chemistry works. And
Mhm.
so you can't see it, you can't touch it, so it's intellectual. So we talk about those things, and since we make the chemicals ourselves, then we actually know, why it works because I create the formulas. It's not just I buy it from some company that makes drain cleaner or enzyme
Yeah.
digesters for septic tanks and those type of things, or toilet bowl cleaner or window cleaner. We're actually buying the raw ingredients and mixing them. Plus, we're actually coming up with the ideas of what we need, not just uh, going shopping and buying ingredients, but what do we need to create and how can we make it work to accomplish what we want to do? So it's not just making something out of a recipe book, like going to a cookbook. We're actually creating that. And so therefore we know why it works and how to make it work and what not to do. And all those things become important because it
Excellent.
can be confusing if you're just going by memorization. We want to go by understanding. So we
Yes.
talk about not only what works, but how it works and why it works and what you can do to communicate to your customer. Not that you're going to teach them how to clean rugs, but what do they want? What do they want to hear? What do they want to see? What are they interested in? How do you communicate your skills to those people. So there's a lot of that in addition to hands-on cleaning. And then we also do a lot about rug identification,
Yes.
especially as it comes from construction. Uh,
Mhm.
because certainly I'm not a rug ID expert, but if we know how it's made and what it's made for and what testing we need to do, and how to do that testing, then we can understand how to clean or protect or improve that textile. And again, some of this testing we have actually come up with,
Mhm.
and nobody else has ever been doing it in the rug washing, carpet cleaning world. And we're bringing some of this testing and understanding to the textile field because of the chemistry experience of manufacturing. So, anyways, I don't want to get too much talk about the details, but we're going to try to cover everything, bring everything, and you're going to learn. If you're new, you're going to learn to know the difference between the different types of rugs so you can communicate to your customer, and then how to clean the different types. Is it a animal pelt? Is it machine made? Is it modern? Is it antique? Is it exotic? Is it simple? And then understand how to do that. How about some things you've learned, Rob, or some things that you're able to share that come to mind when you think about the classes?
Well, this particular picture reminds me that, I would have never known that chieftain's blankets. Now, this is a later phase, of course, but even chieftain's blankets were made so that when the chief would wrap himself in it, it would make him appear bigger. I mean, they put the stripes and everything in such a way that he would be a commanding presence, and so that's something that I would have never known. Just seeing this rug laying out on the ground, I
Mm.
would have never understood that without Nate demonstrating it and showing us what a difference it makes and how it was originally intended to be used. Those little snippets like that, when you are able to communicate, maybe even show a picture to your clients, like when I go to pick up rugs, the first thing I want my customer to know is that I love rugs, because when you love them, you're excited about them and you can tell them about their rugs and you can show them things that they never seen before. So many times that's happened to me where I say, I love the blue in this rug. She said, blue? Oh, wow. That is a robin egg blue. I've never seen that before in that rug. Never noticed it. And so when they see that you have that kind of an eye and that you have that kind of love for these true pieces of art, hand woven, one of a kind pieces of art, many type rugs that we work on. When they see that you have that passion, you've got their business for the rest of their life, and they're going to be a cheerleader for you, for all of their friends, all of their family. I just had it happen to me today. Picked up a rug, and she said, I had no idea anybody around here knew the kind of things that you know about rugs. She said, I'm going to send my mom and dad to you. My sister has a couple of rugs, and went on and on. So those kind of things are just so valuable from the classes. And you pick things like that up to be able to talk to your client about and wow them. And it's like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. And that is invaluable.
I remember, Rob, one of the stories you told at one of our events where there was a rug. It wasn't that extraordinary. It was just an ordinary rug, maybe to you or to me, because we see rugs often. But you talked to the young woman and you mentioned something about the rug or got her talking about the rug. I think you may have said something like, tell me a little bit about this rug. And then she told you a story and started crying. Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. This is what
Tell
it
that
was.
real quick, what happened there.
It was kind
That's
of
a
a
good
low.
example of what you're talking about.
Right, yeah. It was a low shag rug, pretty light colored, ivory, and it had a urine stain on it. And she was very adamant about she wanted that stain gone. Could I get that stain gone? And I told her that I can't guarantee it, but many, many times I'm able to get that just fine. And it was kind of uneventful in the beginning. She just really wanted that stain out, and I said I'll do the best I can. So when I brought it back, I rolled it out in front of her and she saw that the stain was gone. She lost it. She started crying. And I didn't really know what to do. Men kind of, is kind of like that. But when she gathered herself together and she said, I want to show you something. She took me into her bedroom. On her dresser was a picture of her grandmother and her grandfather being married standing on that rug. That's what that rug meant to her. And so that taught me that I need to understand before I take the rug away. I need to understand how they feel about that rug, and it taught me a very valuable lesson, and it got me a client for life and a cheerleader for life.
So that's a good story because there's a lesson to that story in that rugs are different than carpet.
Yes.
Because with carpet cleaning and even upholstery cleaning, and other types of janitorial stuff, it's just the building. It's just the floor. It's just, a necessary thing that has to be done. But with a rug, it's personal. It's not the floor, it's art. It's a personal possession. It's like a part of the family sometimes.
Yes.
The attachment that people have. And then so when you act like a janitor, and there's nothing wrong with being a janitor.
No.
If you act like a carpet cleaner, nothing wrong with being a carpet cleaner. If you act like a floor covering salesman, nothing wrong with that. But when you act like rugs are important to you, and textiles are important to you, and artwork is important to you, culture is important to you, rugs are important to you, and you make that connection, it's a completely different thing. Don't you think, Rob?
Absolutely. I mean, people fall in love with their rugs, and a lot of it, I've seen rugs become bookmarks in people's lives. We bought that when we had our first child. We bought that rug when we were on our honeymoon in Turkey or in Morocco. We got that rug. My son gave to us because he was overseas in the Army and the Navy, Air Force, Marines, and was being able to buy rugs and get them back to us in that way. So you find that there's very few people just buy a rug and it's just a rug. I mean, it happens, but rugs are very personal to people, and a lot of times it's because they're a bookmark or a great memory that they have that they want to treasure for the rest of their life.
So the class helps us get all those other things, not just skills of how to dust a rug,
Right.
broom a rug, or dry a rug, although we're going to talk about those things and do those things. But
Yes.
it's also becoming a rug, lover, a ruggy, a rug textile expert, because you really need to have that. Uh, you got to really love rugs to really connect with a lot of your customers. Otherwise, it's just a job. It's just
Yeah.
a function. And we want to take it beyond that because we're not teaching these classes. Uh, and I'm not going to try to compare it to somebody else or anything, but we're not teaching the classes so that you can become the average cleaner. We're trying to teach you to become the exceptional rug cleaner, the expert in your area, the not the average price, but the premium price, not the we can do it all, but that we're focused. Because a lot of people get in a business of cleaning, and there's nothing wrong with this either, but they diversify into everything. They clean windows, they clean they clean roofs, they do janitorial,
Siding, yeah,
they
power
they
wash, yeah.
they they rent mopeds, they sell draperies, they rent real estate, and there's nothing wrong with all those things. But we want people to be able to come and focus on doing the premium work and getting the premium price. and then being the go-to person, because we can help you become that. Uh,
Mhm.
and one of the ways we do that is through the class, because you can go on Facebook and listen all that, and it's good. We encourage you to do that, but you really got to have hands-on experience and knowledge to really leverage those other things. And then instead of getting the average $3 a square foot, you know, I have many customers that are way higher than that in price, and they're busy. Okay. So that's where we want to take you. Even if you're a beginner, we want to get you going down that path. And even if you've been doing this your whole life, I've done classes where, I'm sitting there talking to the technicians and I'm showing them something, and then the boss all of a sudden grunts. I mean, this literally happened. I was on my hands and knees and I'm talking eye to eye with the other guys, and all of a sudden over my head, it's just the guy that hired me, he's grunting. And I go, like, what? I thought he had, was having a heart attack or indigestion or something. I go, like, what? And he goes, I just learned something. And I'm going like, well, that's what you hired me for. And he's going like, no, I learned something. He was in shock because he's thinking he's hiring me to teach his guys because
Right.
he's busy,
Yeah.
and then he's like learning stuff. I'm going like, oh, this is, because it was kind of like, I'm the expert, and you're just a worker, you're just,
Right.
but I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying, there's things to learn. And
Always.
we get in, even if we're experienced, we sometimes get in a rut, and we know what we're doing and we do it our way. But time things move forward. Chemistry's moving forward. New things are coming out. New things are being
Right.
developed. There's new chemistry and there's new technique, there's new machines. And so if you were comfortable because your dad showed you how he did it, which is great, but maybe that was 20 years ago and it's
Yeah.
time for a refresher course. So,
Yeah, the chemistry, that's why when in the rug vault, I always counsel people when they join the rug vault is to watch the videos from the newest to the oldest, because if you start at the beginning, we didn't have dye release. We didn't have low odor dye stripper. There are a lot of products. We didn't have Navajo rug cleaner at one point. We didn't have rayon rug shampoo.
yes.
So, if you start at the beginning, you're missing out on some of the better chemistry that has been developed since we began the show. That's how long we've been doing the show and how long we've been helping people. We have got a list a mile and a half long of people who make great money because we have helped them in classes and get them going.
And most of those products, because it came about because somebody called me
Yeah.
with a problem and said, how do I fix it? And I'm going, um, let me think about it. And then we come up with a product and test it and send it. I've sent you things to test.
Yep. Yep.
We come up with new things. We're not just going out and seeing what everybody else is making, and then trying to copy it. We're not doing that
Right.
because that's kind of like that's ghetto. We don't do that. So we look at a problem and say, okay, how can this be solved? And if we can't think of an answer, I make some phone calls, and if I can't find an answer, then I research. I
Yeah.
get books, and I you know you know recent developments in the analysis of surfactants. I mean, these are books I read, okay,
Mhm.
because I'm looking for an answer. I'm not you know, here's one on fiber reactive dyes. Okay, how do I
Mm.
deal with it? I don't know. I got to read a book on it, or
Yeah.
it's actually got to read several books on it because one book
Yeah.
isn't enough. But what I'm getting at is the reason it's better than 10 years ago or 20 years ago is because we continue to try to solve problems and develop those answers. And I got some things on my desk that we're going to be coming out with that are new chemicals uh, to solve a problem that people have called me with. So that's what we're doing. So anyways, just to sum up, We got a rug washing event coming up. We're gonna have lots of fun. We're gonna go out and do some things. We're gonna meet people. We're gonna work with people. June 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We start at 8:30 in the morning. We work till dinner time, and then usually after dinner we do something together. So we get together. A lot of times we go back to the shop and we clean things, we talk, that type of stuff. We're going to try to cover everything you want covered, and we're going to keep moving with new stuff. We're going to go from one thing to another. We're not going to just sit there and rehash. So it's going to be quite an event. We want you to come along, want you to bring your questions, and we want to work with you. And then it's not just that, we work with you afterwards too. We keep it going.
That's right. Continuing education is what is just so necessary. And if you all know me, I'm the gadget geek. Okay. So I'm going to have an ORP meter and our oxidation reduction potential. So we're going to be able to show you how to test fringe and say to the client, your fringe has been damaged by someone. And here is the number to prove it that it is in an oxidation state. And someone left it there and didn't, and so, and then we're going to take pH readings. I've got meter after meter. I've got black lights and moisture meters and all kinds of stuff that I'm going to show you how to use the fun little tools that are scientific instruments that help you gain a perspective on what is going on with this rug. Because you can't always tell just from a general eye, looking at it inspection. You got to get deeper
A
than that
lot of these
sometimes.
things have been developed specifically because of the classes we do and
That's
trying to
right.
teach people and then solve problems for people. So, those ORP meters aren't made for rug, for rug washing. Those are made
Right.
for those are made for other things.
Yeah.
But we've pulled those in not because we're looking for new meters to sell. It's because we knew there was a problem and we're trying to figure out how do we measure this.
Yes.
Then again, I went and did research because I didn't know. I said, there's got to be an answer to this. And so I started doing research, and then all of a sudden I'm going like, oh, that's what they call a meter that measures that. And then, bought them and started bringing them in. But they're made for environmental things. They're made
Mhm.
for environmental sciences, mainly for measuring lakes and streams. That's really what they're for. Okay, so we brought that into our industry because we were trying to answer questions for people about 90 line 90 line rugs. How do we
Right.
know what they used on it and what state it's in? Because we don't know. Or Moroccan rugs. These rugs have been chemically washed. What did they do? And then people ask me, I said, well, I don't know. They could have used oxidation, they could have used reduction, they could have used high pH. And they're going, well, how do you know? I said, well, you have to basically guess. You could test, but you have to do little samples. And then I'm going, there's got to be a way to test it. And so, of course, I called my friend Lou DuPont, started talking to him. He started pointing me in the right directions because he's a scientist. He's a PhD scientist and works at labs, doing high
Mhm.
tech stuff. And so he pointed me in the right direction. And pretty soon it's like, oh, I bought one. Now we can start doing it. So, anyways, it was great having you invite me onto your Zoom meeting. And we want to invite people to come out east with us, out to Hagerstown, Maryland, June 5, 6, and 7. Tuition is $15.95 for per person, and that might sound like a lot of money, and I know it is, and I know it costs money to go, hotel rooms, all that kind of stuff, lost revenue at work, but when you get to know what you're doing, I mean, that's just a couple rugs.
That's right.
Have you ever had a rug, Rob, where you did one or two rugs and charged more than that?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely, all the time.
okay, so
All the
you
time.
can make that money back the day you get back.
That's right.
So it sounds like a lot, but the stuff you're going to learn gives you the power that to make that back relatively easily and quickly because that's the market. We're
Yep.
out doing area rugs and oriental rugs.
And you're going to be able to wow your clients with the information that you're going to be able to give them about their rug, about rugs in general, and about the cleaning process if they're interested. I carry around a picture of 1,000 magnified soil so that I can show people this is abrasive, and if we don't get this out of this rug, you might as well be rubbing it with sandpaper every time you walk on it.
You go bring
And so.
you go bring those pictures with you, Rob?
Oh yeah, I've got them
Okay,
on my
okay.
phone always. Yeah.
I want to see those. Okay,
Yeah.
so uh,
Heck,
uh,
also till now.
thanks so much, Rob, and let's get the word out.
You bet, you bet. And we're gonna have a lot of fun there. We've got a lot of room too. Actually, we've got what I think it's over 25 seats that we have available
So
to be able to
I
go.
think we got room for about 50 more people, don't you think?
Oh, really? Wow,
Yeah, I think
wow.
we gave about another 50 people in there. Well,
I haven't.
we better check and see how big that new wash floor is before
That's
we
what
say
because I
50.
haven't been there. Yeah, I haven't been to there, so I want to know. But I mean, we can bust it out to the back row, man. And a lot of people gathering around a rug. That's great for a guy down. It's like the um oh, what do they call it? The huddle up for a football team. The guy gets down, his voice just booms to everybody.
Yeah,
So
but
it's going to be
I'm
great.
only I'm joking because the classes aren't that big. We give individual attention. We want everybody to get their hands on the rugs.
Sure,
Well, they're not near that big. I'm just joking. But we will have a good group and it'll be lots of fun.
you
Thanks so
bet. It
much,
always
Rob. I
is.
appreciate you contacting me and letting me do this with you.
I'm glad to have the opportunity to teach next to you again. It's a pleasure every week, a pleasure every time we've ever went anywhere, and this is just going to be another one of those great times. And for people to be able to network and get to know people that are into the same thing they are.
Well, you can call Sharon at 1-800 Ultra Dry, which is 1-800-858-7237. That's a ChemMax's number. And you can call her and put a deposit in.
Hmm.
Then we ask for a $400 deposit, and that'll save you a seat. And then that'll get you in. And if you got any questions, you can call me or Rob. I'm sure Rob won't mind, but you can
I
call me
know.
on my cell phone, which is 231 740 4371, and you can ask me any personal questions about the class or what to bring or what to do. And then we'll get together and we'll have a great time, lots of fun, but more importantly, lots of learning and lots of opportunity to really become the leader in your part of the world for rug cleaning.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Okay, good night. See you
See you
later.
later. Bye bye. Let's see. There it is.